This is Bradley Sowash, and I am so happy to be here today with another piano improv tip of the month. So today's subject is going to be embellishing. How do I begin improvising? And there's a lot of ways to sort of open the door to that, but a common answer is, mess around with the blues scale. Well, the blues scale is kind of fun, but nobody really just wants to hear you noodle around on the blues scale all day. Because there's no context for that, there's no tune, there's no basis, so who cares if you're doodling around on the blues scale? So what I would propose is that all improvisation begins with making variations. You know, I like these Master and Commander books, about Captain Aubrey and Stephen Maturin. You may have seen the movie or know that there's 20 books about those guys, novels. And those guys are, one plays cello, one plays violin on this fictional 1800s era nautical series. And they're always saying, hey, I came up with a new variation for the Boccherini. Let's go play through it tonight. You know, improvisation is not linked to jazz or any particular style, particularly when it just begins with embellishing. Just taking a known melody and making your own variation on it. So today I'm going to show you a couple of tips to embellish that can be applied to any style, and I'm going to be doing that with my That's Jazz Book 1 as a basis, because you need a tune to embellish, you know, to make the embellishments be about something rather than just noodling around. So for those of you who don't know it, I guess it ain't bragging to say it. If it's true, I wrote the best-selling jazz piano method in the world. It's a 9-book series, and I'm going to be working from book 1 today called Getting Into It. Here's my old beat-up, bruised copy that I've taken all over I don't know if all over the world, but all over the country for sure. I've been to so many music teacher conferences with this book. And I just want to show you sort of how it works, and we're drill down to the tune. After a couple of introductory pages with important information about how jazz looks a little different and plays different, that every tune has, I don't know if you can see that, a warm-up page, a warm-up. And this is just designed to be, for the teacher, the lesson plan. If you've never taught jazz before, and this is a jazz series, not an open-ended series. So if you've never taught jazz before, that's your lesson plan. Run them through the warm-up. And then it's followed by a tune. In this case, we'll be looking at Spare Change. And then it's always has the Going Further page. And that's the most important page with every tune in the book, because that's where the creativity happens. That's where the student alters the written music from what the composer wrote, which is me. So in order to embellish a tune, we're going to need a basis for it. And so this first tune is in the key of A minor, and after we've been through a little bit of warm-up, we've developed the hand positions and got things off to a good start. So I'm just going to play the tune. I can't show you it exactly on the screen for copyright reasons, but it's a very simple tune, and that's by design. That's by design, because simple tunes have room for embellishment. So let's have a listen here. I'm going to put on a little swing drum beat back here just to make it more fun. I love to practice with a groove here. So here's the student part. There is a teacher part designed to be a written duet. I'll play that next. Now imagine the student is still playing that. The teacher has that busy part. Back to the student part. I'm on the B section. So it's very easy, but you can hear that it has that jazzy flair, even though it's beginner. And then we return to the A section with a little bit lower bass for variety. Sometimes I like to ask students when they work with me on this tune, I ask them, I say, what do you think of that tune? Do you like that tune? And now they're in a bind because they know I wrote it. And they're like, yeah, I love that tune. No, you don't. Because it's not a great tune. It has holes in it. It's all in one hand position, and it has a lot of space. And that's all by design to give the player room to add to it. So what I'm going to do now is go back through the first couple measures of that tune and offer you 3 easy tips to embellish or personalize or change a tune to your own, personalize to your own liking. And the way it works is you put these ideas in your head, cerebrally I call it, thinking about what they are mechanically and deliberately, and then the hope is that they become more intuitive as you're familiar with the tools that are there. So how do we make that tune more interesting? We're going to embellish it with 3 techniques. The first one that fits this particular melody is fill notes. And fill notes are the notes between the notes. The notes that are not written or in the known melody, but rather the ones that are in between there. So we have A and C as our opening notes. A, C. So what note is between A and C? So B, right? I wrote down one example here, although this is not in any way the right way to play it. It is one possible improvisation using the idea of filling a note in between the notes. So here's my written notes, and the idea is we're going to just stick a note in between those 2 notes. Let's listen to that. The original. And the possible fill note. There it is, that fill note. Here it is again. Here it is again. Okay? Now even that is deliberately dry and boring. So what I want is to go beyond the reading eye and discover the 8th notes and the swing 8ths. And this is actually, here's the little secret, it's modeled in the teacher part that was in the tune itself. So that the student is hearing some of those. And the idea is that I'm actually secretly seeding their intuition. So another way to use fill notes between A and C, this time I'll improvise. So I used a lot more B's and I used some 8th notes. Now, there's another note between A and C, and some people will discover that. Is it okay to play a B flat in the key of A minor? Yes, because it's a fill note. When you have on-the-way notes between the landmark or the target notes, it doesn't really matter what they are. So listen to these B flats. Now, I think there were too many there for good taste, but I was really exploiting the idea of simply filling in other notes. To really drive this home, let's listen to it on some other tunes. Here's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. So if we fill between those first 2 pitches, C, G, so za, zuba, dabba, dee, or we can get more jazzy with it, where I use some chromatic notes, E flat and F sharp in that case. Here's another one. So if we were going to fill that in, we might throw some extra notes in there. Let's see, 1, 2, 1. So every target note I put some notes in between. It's a really neat technique. You're going to laugh at how easy this is. Simply repeating notes. But there's a little bit of a surprise with repeating notes. So let's just review the tune. I think I know my own music, right? So just taking some of those repeated notes, and repeating them, and sort of falling into the swing feel that this drum beat implies, or that the teacher part laid the foundation for. We're going to repeat some of those notes. This is a written example, but of course, so the secret is that if you start messing around with repeated notes, you discover some rhythms that kind of come out in the act of repeating, because repeating is so easy. Instead of going da 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 da, you may end up going da da do da 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 do dee. So the repeated notes are kind of secretly leading you into finding some syncopations. Let's do this on some other songs. Last repeated notes there. So you get the idea. Just taking an idea, cerebrally saying, I'm going to repeat some of these notes and see where those discoveries lead your ear. So that's the second of the 3 embellishments. So far we've looked at fill notes, we've looked at repeated notes, and the last one is neighbor notes. Neighbor notes are notes that go away and back. Away and back. That's different from going away and staying away. So if I have an A, and I go away and back, this is the metaphor I use. Let's say you have a baking project, and you're baking cookies, and you sit down and you get out your ingredients, and you start with that note A, and you suddenly realize that you are out of sugar. So what do? You run over to the neighbor's house on the upside of the hill. Imagine you live on a hill, and you go up and you borrow your sugar and you come back. How far is that neighbor? Is it a whole step up the hill? Or a half step up the hill? The answer is either, whatever your ear likes. Remember, these embellishments are not critical that they stay in the key or follow the chord or be overthought about. If we then go back to our baking project and we discover, oh my gosh, we have no butter, but you're not going to go back and ask sugar to the same neighbor twice. That's embarrassing, right? So we'll go to the neighbor just a bit down the hill. Is that neighbor a whole step below us or a half? It doesn't matter, right? Now, I showed this to a kind of really smart, sweet high school girl that I taught for a while, and she said, why would you start a baking project with no sugar and no butter, Mr. Sowash? And it's like, okay, it's a metaphor. So I have a written neighbor note here. This is the written example to prime the creative pump. So that's it right there. So, neighbor. Here's another one. That was a downhill one. Here's another downhill one. Okay, so let's take this and put a lot of neighbor notes in it. The way that you get at these embellishments, and this is, I want you to listen here because this is a great tip. There are 2 ways people think about embellishing. Readers find it helpful to have the music in front of them. So they can say, I'm going to play the notes I see, but more. So, oh, there's a gap. I can play a fill there. Oh, that's a long note. Maybe I'll have time for a neighbor note. Here's a half note, not much going on, I'll turn that into a repeated note. It can become part of the process of reading, because if you're used to working through your eyes, the page in front of you can suggest how to apply these embellishments. If you are an ear player, you're better off closing your eyes and letting your ear take you to where the music needs to be, trying to play what you are pre-hearing. Here's my tip. Do both. Do both. You want to wean yourself away from your eye exclusively, and yet the eye will lead you to some good ideas. So memorize the little tune, this little tune like the first tune in That's Jazz Book 1, which is called Spare Change, and then apply it to that. Let's do some more neighbors on other tunes. Let's do Twinkle Twinkle with an Alberti bass. And you might say, well, wait, I heard a trill in there and I heard a turn. Trills and turns are neighbor notes. They're just quicker repetitions of those. So my last wonderful tip is to mix and match these and combine them. You don't have to restrict yourself to one, but that's a great way to learn them. So the way to teach or practice these, if you're a musician or if you're a teacher, you want to handcuff your student or yourself in your playing. So you're locked in. You must play this song. These 4 measures, you must only use fill notes. And you can't do anything else. Even if you're wildly creative, you must do them, because that's how you get a bigger vocabulary. Then, let them go. Then say, now that we've been through these embellishments and we've demonstrated that we can play each of these independently, let's mix and match all together and see how they come out. So let's see if I can try to do that. I'm using fill notes, repeated notes, and neighbor notes. Which I think is a great improvement on the original tune. And we'll see you next month with a brand new piano improv tip of the month. Meanwhile, keep in touch at bradleystillwash.com. Check out the things I offer. Bye for now.